Mr. President, thank you very much for gracing your presence on our community. I'm going to start off, Mr. President, by taking us back a while. And we've had a tumultuous couple of years. I think if we sat here a year ago, we were all on the edge of our seats, worried about where South Africa was going. Then you were elected as the leader of the ANC, and then everyone got excited. The rand went from 14.11, I've checked this, down to 11.56. Unfortunately, it's gone back to about 13.70 or 13.80. But that had nothing to do with you. That's got to do with other things.
Thank you.
But I think after the incitement, the reality hit us. And really hit us on how much damage had been done over, maybe a little bit you could say was the financial crisis, but then, in the post-financial crisis era. And that the road to recovery was going to be particularly difficult. Were you shocked when you opened the box and saw the damage?
As a country, we've been going through a cathartic moment, a moment where we're discovering what has gone on in the last 9 years. And what we are finding is quite horrific. And quite a lot of it was first played out openly by the media, and a number of people who've been very brave, and a number of people who are now appearing before the Zondo Commission. The latest one is Minister Pravin Gordhan, who very bravely stood up and told the truth about what he has gone through. Now, clearly, he's drawn a lot of condemnation and attack from a number of circles. And those are circles that are still so deeply embedded in what has been going wrong in our country. Our task is to support, defend people like Pravin Gordhan, and a number of others are going to come to the fore. We should stand behind them, because what they are seeking to do is to rid our country of the culture of corruption, which had seeped into the sinews of our body politic. And the determination is now strong within the leadership of the governing party and a number of other sectors, including Parliament and a number of others, to rid our country of corruption. And I have no doubt whatsoever that we will succeed in this task. South Africa will soon be corruption-free. That must happen.
Narrative is very important to get across a message. And the concept of that came out of your conference, radical economic transformation versus inclusive growth, expropriation without compensation versus land reform, to me was more EFF language than Cyril Ramaphosa language. I'm pleased to hear a shift in the narrative, but it's very clear for us to achieve our investment goals. Investors want to know property rights are secure, otherwise they won't invest. Can you give us some idea how you're going to manage this thing? I know I've heard you tell me a lot, but I think these people need to hear from you.
Yeah. What was discussed at a very deep level at the governing party's 54th conference were all these issues that continue to irk the majority of South Africans. That the economic growth that we've had in our country has not benefited the majority of people. And people have taken us back to 1994. That in 1994, we all collectively as South Africans won the vote. We became equal voters. We were given this wonderful constitution that tells us that we're all equal, we've got equal rights, we've got human rights, and we can use the constitution as an instrument to advance our lives. But when they looked, they say, and it's the reality, when they look at their own economic well-being, the majority of South Africans are still way behind and they are excluded from economic participation. When it comes to the issue of land, the land that was taken away from their forebears has forever remained in the hands of just a few people in our country. And they've come to their party and they've said, this matter needs to be addressed. This matter needs to be solved. We cannot move on forward for a number of further years without this matter being addressed. So it behoved on that conference, the 5,000 delegates who were there, representing, if you like, the million members of the ANC, but also broadly representing the 11 million supporters who support the ANC in elections, like it was in the last election. So it behoved on those delegates to find solutions. And the one solution they came up with is that we must speed up economic participation by all South Africans. Now, that is a mandate I was given. And that is a mandate that I'm pushing forward, but pushing forward within a broader economic understanding that what we need to do is to grow our economy, to bring investments, but also to begin to unlock all possibilities to get those people who were previously excluded from the economy to play a role. Women, young people, 60% of whom are unemployed now, many people should be brought into the economy. And the good thing is, Stephen, many South Africans are very receptive to this. Many people who are seated here today are people who have embraced this notion of broadening economic participation. And that I am really pleased about. From yourself at Investec, a number of other companies that are here, they've opened channels, platforms, possibilities from training young people, from enabling black entrepreneurs, from doing deals with them and then enabling them. When it comes to the issue of land, a wonderful conversation has ensued throughout the nation. There was never a moment when the nation has been in conversation on a particular issue in recent years. The last time was when we drafted our constitution. This time around, we've had the entire nation and many households as well have been talking about the question of land. What do we do? And the realization has sort of come to people's minds that in the end, many South Africans are excluded from meaningful participation in land ownership, land tilling and all that, and we've got to find a solution. And a solution is about to be found. The Parliament has been involved, as we all know, in all these discussions, and now it has come down to the Constitutional Committee in Parliament making a recommendation. It's going to be debated. And I can assure you the solution that will come forth in my book is going to be a solution that is going to enhance the economic situation of our country, will not harm agricultural production, will actually be a solution that I would like to see enhancing the economic growth of our country. Last thing that people should not be fearful of is that, that there will be marauding mobs going around taking people's properties and grabbing land and all that. That is never going to happen. That is going to be prevented, and I will not allow that to happen at all costs. Stephen was scared when this issue of radical economic transformation was being debated. We are going to manage this very well. And as I often say, we were taught to manage things by a great man. Nelson Mandela taught us good lessons. And for me, I learned quite a lot of what I'm doing now at his feet. I spent a great deal of time listening to Nelson Mandela, crafting my own political acumen around Nelson Mandela's values, principles, and integrity. So that is going to continue standing many of us in good stead, because a number of the leaders in the ANC as well have modeled themselves around the values that Nelson Mandela taught us. So fear not. We are going to manage this whole process very well, from radical economic transformation to economic inclusion, as well as to resolving the land issue in our country. That is going to be done. Thank you very much.
You had Jack Ma here at your investment summit, which I must give you credit for. I thought, what are we talking about? We must just get doing. But it was a very good summit, Mr. President. He made 3 conditions for a growth economy. 1, educate your people.
Yeah.
2, celebrate entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You got a lot of them in the room here.
Yeah.
You got educators here as well.
Yeah.
3, build an efficient state.
Yeah.
These are tough issues that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
How do you see us dealing with them?
Well, those are critical issues. Education is number 1. And of course, build an efficient state and open channels for entrepreneurs. Now, education is critical, and we keep talking about it. And many people think that we're not making progress. We are making progress. The progress, yes, is slow, and it is slow because the apartheid education system did a lot of damage, more damage than many people actually realize. The damage that was done by Verwoerd from 1954, when apartheid education was introduced, right up till 1994, is huge and enormous. But we are working our way through that and focusing on education, and quite a lot of our budget is actually directed towards education. It is the number 1 outcome in our plans as a government, that the first thing we've got to attend to is to improve the human capabilities, and education is therefore the number 1 issue. And the second one is improving the capability of the state. And the state was actually dealt enormous and serious blows in the last 9 years, where by design and by intent, they debilitated the capability of the state to be able to do a whole number of things. And as corruption set in, it meant that everything then became much weaker and much more directionless. And we are now focusing on rebuilding the capability of the state and reinvigorating the commitment of people who work in the state. But more importantly, the regulatory process and the bureaucratic process needs to be addressed as well. And this is what we are focusing on as well. And we're doing that both at national, provincial, and local government level. And the local government level is where we have the greatest challenge, because we've got all these 278 municipalities, which Minister Zweli Mkhize is trying to get to grips with, and in a wonderful way, and he's identified 57 of them as needing immediate emergency attention. So that is being handled, and we will continue to do that. And entrepreneurship, it was good to have Jack Ma here, because he's just a breath of fresh air, and he's an inspiration. And I'm hoping to have him here more and more, and I want him to set up his own organization here. So all those things and more is what we are focusing on. So this time around, we are not sleeping at the steering wheel. We are wide awake, and this plane is flying, and it's got capable people who are going to fly it.